Thank you so much. Indeed, my name is Leo. I'm going to do the presentation in English because, believe me, my German is absolutely not so good. But anyway, I'm working for a company called Polydigital. This is a consulting company that is assisting large corporations in their workforce transformation by supplying top digital solutions in employee experience and microlearning in combination with a team of HR and change management experts. Today we are going to talk about one of our technology partners, which is Mobitrain. Now on the slide there is the title Mobile Microlearning, meaning that we are going to talk about learning. And learning means we are going to talk about acquiring knowledge. Now, in this acquisition of knowledge, some people with whom we are talking to, they claim that they are in what they call an employee knowledge crisis. And I would like to shed some light on this in order to make that link to the mobile microlearning concept. First of all, what is the current situation? And I believe I'm not telling anything new today. This is all stuff that you probably know without any question. We are all in a very competitive working climate. Especially the customer expectations, they are rising. There is a battle going on between the customer experience that we all have online, but at the same time that we all have offline. If we go to stores, if we go to different companies, there's a huge battle going on. We as owners of a company, we expect from our employees that they learn more and that they learn faster as well. And then also we have a large workforce which is getting more and more remote, and also they are used to consume content in a very intuitive way and also on demand. Now, this being said, I would like to stress this with a number of facts. And it is a fact that even after training, about 80% of what we learn during a class course or an e-learning, after a specific amount of time, 30 days for example, about 80% of that acquisition of knowledge is actually gone. We are also overwhelmed with all kinds of new information coming from different channels. And we hardly find the time for some appropriate training. It definitely needs, let's say, the next generation, the new workforce. Based on the experience that we have with our customers, they spend about 1% of their weekly time, which corresponds to about 5 minutes training time that they would like to do on a daily basis. And also, global workforce is getting more and more mobile, and we definitely have to take into account in order to make sure that we understand that the transfer of knowledge to our employees that has to change dramatically. And this is the context in which I would like to show a number of business cases. And one of the business cases is more in a type of a retail environment. And what is the current situation there? It is, of course, increased competition coming from e-commerce. The high staff turnover makes it very difficult for the managers to make sure that there is a consistent customer experience, that there is a consistent product knowledge throughout the whole network. And I would like to take 2 examples of this case. And one of the example is meet Sarah. Sarah, she works within a fashion retail chain which is called Zara. It's a coincidence that Sarah is working for Zara, but anyway. She is a new hire within the fashion retail chain, and she has to learn a lot of the products. She also has to learn some new sales techniques. But it's very difficult for her, if she would like to achieve her sales objectives in the store, to be pulled out of the store. So our challenge is, how can I acquire that knowledge in an easy way? Second case in a retail is a completely other domain. It's more like meet Tom. He's responsible in a retail banking and insurance environment. He has the responsibility to make sure that if there are legal updates on regulations and other procedures, he has to make sure that all employees within the whole organization of the retail banking and insurance company are up to date with. And more important is he has to be able to keep track on who has followed the course already and who has received that certificate, yes or no. So these are two examples in the retail network, and I'll come back later on these. The second example is more, it's again a different environment. It's more like an operational and a production type of environment, where there is a huge pressure on cost and pricing, as you all know. Also a very high turnover, and because of that very high turnover in operations and logistics, the challenge is there to make sure that the new hires are up to date with the new procedures for executing their job. Two examples again. First, meet Eva. Eva is the head of operations excellence within one of the largest retailers in Europe, that is Ahold. She has noticed, for example, a difference in time consumption between the different stores where she is responsible for in filling up the shelf racks. And she was just wondering to make sure whether all employees in the different stores are actually using the most up-to-date working procedures in order to fill the racks in the stores. Meet also Mark, industrial manufacturing environment. He's in charge of safety and security within the company. Every new hire within Atlas Copco will follow a very intensive onboarding course on safety and security. But he also feels that after a while, some of the important aspects in safety of security are not really very fresh in mind. So he's actually looking for ways how safety and security, which is absolutely crucial for him, is up to date and is kept fresh in the mind. So the four examples, they are all suffering or facing the same type of challenge. And the challenge is, how can I make sure that I provide the right training to the right people at the right place at the right time? And also, it is important, and I'm not an advocate to make sure that you don't have to do any classroom trainings anymore. I strongly believe in blended learning as well. But it is also important to acknowledge the cost of pulling out the workforce out of their daily day jobs. And that's the reason why many people are looking for solutions to have a minimum impact on the day-to-day job. Once they are in training, whether it's classroom, e-learning training or micro-learning training, is how you keep them engaged at the topic. And lastly, but not the less important one, is how you can make sure that what they have been trained on, that they actually apply this in their day-to-day jobs. And the answer, and here I make the link, of course, to the title of this presentation, the answer there is Mobile Microlearning. Now, the mobile microlearning, let's focus on microlearning. And to create the right set for microlearning, it has to be based on 3 neuroscience techniques. And those 3 neuroscience techniques that will help us to make sure that we boost our long-term memory. And it will probably not be a surprise to you all, but our brain is one of the laziest parts of our body. And we have to make sure that we train and keep it active. And the way how we do this with those 3 neuroscientific techniques is the first one is indeed what I call spaced repetition. So within a certain amount of time, you make sure that you repeat a specific topic from time to time to keep it in the mind, to keep it fresh in the mind. The second neuroscience technique that should be applied in microlearning is what I call retrieval practice. We have to make sure that we force our brain to recall the information, and we can do that based on a number of questions that we ask. It is important also that during training, and if you redo a training, that you will not get the same type of question, because otherwise that would be much too easy. So there is an element of machine learning as well involved here that will adjust the set of questions that the trainee will get in terms of previous questions, in terms of previous results, as well as taking into account the results of the corresponding user groups. There's also an element of gamification that is involved in this retrieval practice. And then the third neuroscience technique is what I call employee assessment, is a continuous assessment to understand where are the knowledge gaps in what we try to share with our employees in all the trainings that we give to them. So we have to understand where are the knowledge gaps in order to synchronize our coaching as well towards our employees. If I plot this in a different way, this is what I call the projected forgetting curve. And you see at the bottom of the diagram, this is a kind of a curve that occurs when you don't apply any of those neuroscience techniques. People tend to forget. We have a lazy brain. Sorry to repeat that again. But on the other hand, if you apply those techniques and in a certain specific amount of time, you repeat, you launch a number of questions, you give them tips and tricks, it will stick in the mind and it will be fresh in the mind, top of mind, and it will definitely generate a higher level of engagement. And this is where I would like to introduce what I call the partnership between our company Polydigital and Mobitrain, which we represent in the German market, which has developed an award-winning mobile microlearning platform, which consists, of course, as a solution on that concept of mobility. Our workforce is getting more and more mobile. It definitely brings content on a device where the people are very familiar with. We all use our mobile phones even during the presentation to have a quick review on Facebook or reply quickly on a WhatsApp or whatsoever. This is a type of a device where content is being offered in a format that people are used to and that they are very familiar with. It is also content that is continuously available wherever, whenever that they want the content. And also, for example, there is one of the customers that is using the microlearning platform for a sales course, I'm sorry. If young salespeople are going into an important meeting, that they quickly check some of the sales techniques before they actually go into the customer call. By doing this, and again, the figures are based on the experience that we and the return that we have from our customers, the level of engagement is higher than traditional LMS systems. And again, it is important to stress that microlearning is one part of the total learning package as well. It's a mobile microlearning platform, and the microlearning, again, the neuroscience technique should be involved. What does that mean? Our brain is not capable of having an attention focus or an attention span of longer than 12 minutes. So after 12 minutes, people tend to, there are a million things going on in our brain to start to change and think about other things. So what has to be done in microlearning is be concise, be short. We call that bite-sized content. Very short content modules in a format that is appealing, with pictures, with photos, with videos, with text, with all kinds of gamification, with questions, with intrinsic motivation messages. These are all elements which are part of the microlearning platform. Some of the references, Mobitrain exists as a partner for the last 2 years. They were startup of the year. And in that short period, they have already acquired quite an impressive list with their microlearning platform of references. I mentioned already a couple of them, like KBC and Ahold Delhaize. I would like to dive a little bit deeper in 2 cases now. One is Vans, and the other one is BMW. I'm quite certain that you are all familiar with that last one. Vans. Who knows Vans? Ah, very good. The sneaker company, exactly. So, who is Vans? They are a footwear brand creating all kinds of great sneakers. They also do clothing and accessories. They have over 100 stores throughout the whole Europe. The management wanted to be more effective in delivering a consistent brand and product knowledge throughout the whole EMEA. They are doing already a lot of face-to-face meetings and trainings, but they felt it was not sufficient. They felt that there was something lacking, especially with the type of workforce that they were working for. So what they have been doing is they had tons of e-learning, they had tons of classroom trainings. They transferred part of their existing content into the microlearning platform. And some of the tracks you can see is an onboarding track, specific product tracks as well, sales floor coaching track, and some guiding principles. So they converted their existing content, classroom content, e-learning content, into the microlearning content. And they also created a kind of an effective launch to ensure a good buy-in from in the start from all the users. And they are continuously monitoring where are the learning gaps in order to provide some additional learning paths. What has been the outcome based on the information and the feedback from Vans? They reached an 80% engagement within 7 weeks time frame of the total audience that they reached in the EMEA level, and that is quite impressive. They also measured a higher engagement ratio at a lesser cost. And this was for Vans also one of the key objectives in order to start with the microlearning platform. So in fact, it paid back itself the investment, the initial investment in the microlearning platform. Part of the group in which Vans sits, that's the VF fashion group. There's also Timberland. And Timberland saw the success of the microlearning platform within the Vans organization, and they are now applying it within their own Timberland organization as well. And they are looking into other content topics like ethics, like procedures, and so on. Let's talk about BMW. BMW, quite interesting case. They wanted to develop their own learning platform and their own learning application. They were doing already a lot of face-to-face trainings for their dealerships. They also saw that they were not satisfied about the impact of it. So they were looking for other ways to improve this. They were thinking about microlearning approach. One of the key elements for BMW, and I'm quite certain for a lot of German companies as well, it was the GDPR and the security aspect of the platform. Also, when we engaged in a discussion with them, they had already 2 proposals from external companies in order to build the platform from scratch. So we convinced BMW to start working with the Mobitrain platform, and because it covered already 90% of their requirements. And we conducted a learning track, it was an onboarding track on 3 different user groups. There was a technical user group, there was a sales user group with the launch of the new X5 and 8 series. And then there was also what they call a kind of a test and a control group in order to verify the knowledge absorption of the 2 other groups. And it was quite interesting to see that they actually did that. What was the outcome? Pilots were extremely well received and they were absolutely satisfied about the engagement level. Up to that level that BMW has now decided to implement a microlearning platform for all new hires and also for the launch of new products so that the sales teams are informed in the most efficient and optimal way how they have to sell the BMW products. And also, last but not least, one of the important criteria for BMW was the audit at the level of GDPR and the security performed by KPMG, which was passed quite successfully. This is some of the screenshots of the application. I cannot show you the application of BMW because of a non-disclosure agreement that we have signed with them. But I have the application of Vans with me, and if the time allows it, I would like to shed a little light on that application so you get a kind of a feeling how this looks like. The mobile microlearning solution consists of three pillars. I'm starting to talk Dutch and French and English at the same time now. The first pillar is the CMS for the administrator, the content management system. Is there where actually you build your content in the system, where you transform existing content or you build new content into the system. I have a document with me for the people who are interested to see how this works. It is done in a very intuitive way. You can have a look at it. You can add all kinds of different languages as well in a very easy way. You can create your own learning paths, different levels. You can create the different questions that you would like to introduce. You can actually decide if people have done one level, what the minimum percentage of what the minimum success ratio has to be in order to proceed to the next level. You can add some tips and tricks. There's a lot of things which are done in a very intuitive and easy way at the level of the content management system. The second level is the app itself, and again I have it with me, which is also can be branded in function of the customer itself. And here you have a number of examples of branding of the learning paths, as we call it. And then the third element, which is the dashboard for the management, is there where you actually have a kind of an overview of who is doing what is the adoption ratio, what's the engagement level, where are they in the different levels. Here you can indeed identify the knowledge gaps up to the user level, but also per user group, per store level, per region. It's up to you to decide how you would like to have it. The most important thing is that you can actually create this level of insights in order to provide more effective coaching as well to individuals or to groups and see what the next steps are. A question that we regularly get is, of course, I have already a lot of content which is sitting in my LMS. Fine, no problem. You can create the content and transform your content again in the microlearning platform because of the fact that it has to be in a specific format which is appealing enough for those workers who are in a mobile environment and would like to be using microlearning instead of long-lasting e-learnings. You can do it yourself, or you can outsource this to, you know, Polydigital, and we will be very happy to assist you guys with the first learning paths or learning tracks before you actually can do it yourself. A second question we often get is, well, we have our LMS, can we integrate with the microlearning platform? Yes, you can. The microlearning platform is based on an open API architecture. So technically seen, you can exchange information between the two platforms, that's no problem. Do I have to do this? Not really, but I can understand that in large corporations where everything is being centralized into one system, like SAP, SuccessFactors, for example, it's definitely possible. But be aware that the platform itself, like most of our customers, are starting with the first learning tracks without a deep level type of integration. And then afterwards, when they see that it's actually really generating the right level of engagement, that they are going for an API type of integration. Okay, I have the application ready. Do I have 5 more minutes to show it? Okay. The system should give me a code now. Okay. I'm going to sit down for a minute. It's easier for me to work like that. Okay, what you see here is the application from Vans. Let me just go back first to okay. This is the homepage for Vans. So here you see that I have 4 learning tracks. A learning track on onboarding, there is one on the winter collection, there is another one on guiding principles, there is also another one on the sales floor coach management. And you can see where I am in specific learning tracks. This is a live application, so I'm logged in as one of the members of the Vans organization, and I'm logged in as their brand manager. So if I click on, for example, the onboarding track, I see here 3 levels. The blue is 1 level, the red is a 2nd level, and then the purple is the 3rd level. So you can actually exactly see where I am, and the big buttons, they are what we call a learning topic, and a smaller button next to it. Sometimes there are 3, sometimes there are 4. These are what we call learning moments. So if I click on one, which I have already finalized, for example, I clicked on the button, the learning about the welcome, and on the brand introduction, for example. Here I start my learning. And this is a kind of an introduction about the company itself. I have to see and learn. And then, of course, there is also content based on a video, which I can show you. And then the Vans decided already to ask me a couple of questions. I'm going to reply on that question. I click on next. This is a correct answer. There you see already what we call, from a learning principle, this is intrinsic motivation. So I say, okay, great, I've done a good job. Here another question, there are multiple questions here, I'm going to reply to it. This is a wrong answer. The system replies to me that it's indeed not the right answer. Next time is, let me see whether I can reply it again. So I see the system motivates me again. Okay, last question, you did not reply correctly. New question, you replied correctly. You're doing a great job. Well done, and so on. So you see that this is the type of microlearning that people at Vans and at BMW are using during a coffee break, during commuting towards home, at any time whenever they have time. And also, the system will trigger them in order to make sure that they follow up on the courses and that they stay tuned and that all the information remains fresh in the mind. There is also, of course, for myself, an overview, how am I doing compared to all the learning paths and the learning tracks that I have to go through, in comparison with the user group or the store where I am linked to my location. So at least I can see myself, I can assess myself and see how well I'm doing. I can also, you know, if I'm looking to a specific module, I can easily search for that module, and there is also immediately a link towards the introduction and eventually reporting a technical issue or access frequently asked questions. So you see, this is a very quick peek view on this type of application for the Mobile Microlearning platform. If you have any questions, I will be very happy to reply to them, and thank you so much.